This morning's scripture reading will be out of the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. Paul and Timothy, servants of Christ Jesus, to all the saints in Christ Jesus at Philippi, together with the overseers and deacons, grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry on to the completion until the day of Christ Jesus. It is right for me to feel this way about all of you, since I have you in my heart. For whether I am in chains or defending and confirming the gospel, all of you share in God's grace with me.
Good morning. Certainly good to see each and every one of you here today. As has been put in the handout and also spoken about, we're going to talk about the trip that Cindy and I were able to take over to the Philippines. And I hope that you're as happy to see me up here as I am to be up here. Because I know I've been asked a ton of questions over the last several weeks, and schedule has just hardly allowed us to be able to get up here and put this together, but we're getting to do it today. Some of the pictures that you will see are a direct result of support from here, and all of the pictures that you will see are our support in some way or another. And I'm glad, I hope that when I'm done, that I've conveyed to you how very impressed Cindy and I are with the work that's going on over there, with the people that we are working with, and with what they are teaching and preaching and doing with the work over there. If I were going to do this justice, it would take probably over a couple of hours. I kept telling Cindy the whole time we were over there, I don't know what I'm going to pick and choose with the number of pictures and the other things, so I'm going to try to keep it to the time allotted. I'll probably end up going over, and I'm going to blame it on Jed because he's the song leader. So, you always can blame the song leader, right? I believe that the scripture reading this morning should be a prayer that each of us utter each day regarding the work at Heritage. In fact, I used a similar passage from Colossians chapter 1, verses 3 through 10, when I spoke to the students at their end-of-term banquet. And I changed a couple of names in it, and I were able to fit June in it as well. So I think that this is a key passage for us to look at. And that means that, as we start working through this, I'm going to try to cover everything I can today, and I trust that it will give you a full flavor of what's being done and accomplished here. Let's see if this will work. Do I have to turn it on, Jed? There we go. There we go. These are the topics I'm going to try to hit. Basically, I'm going to do a little bit of work on the Philippines and Baguio, the city itself. Going to talk definitely about the college. Talk about their points of emphasis because they run through everything that happens over there. They're kind of their 3 points of emphasis. Going to talk about the applied ministries that each of the students are required to successfully go through before they graduate. Also going to talk about the Heritage Church of Christ that meets at that same building. About the students' church involvement and the special ministries that the school does as well. We left Wichita on a Monday morning at about 6 a.m. We flew to Phoenix. We had about a 3-hour layover. And then we flew to San Francisco, and we had a little over 10-hour layover before we left Monday night at about 11 p.m. That was Monday night. We arrived in Manila at 6:30 Wednesday morning. So we spent all of Tuesday in some way, shape, or form in the airplane. And if you look at that, Cindy took this picture. I'm glad she did. I didn't even think about it. She did. If you look at this, it says since time of departure was 14 hours and 35 minutes in flight from San Francisco to Manila. So that was what our trip consisted of to get there, just to give you a little bit of sense of how far away it is. I think it's about 7,500 miles from here. The Philippines is the 12th most populous nation in the world. Let that sink in for a second. They have a landmass of 116,000 square miles, covering about 7,200 islands, I think it is. The average age of the Philippines is 25. If you want to compare that to where we live, Kansas has a population of under 3 million. We have a landmass of 82,000, almost 83,000 square acres. If you took half of Kansas again, that would be the size of the Philippines. The average age in the United States is 38 and a half. That's a big spread if you haven't thought about it. Baguio City itself is just under 400,000 people, and guess what? Wichita is just under 400,000 people. The difference is that Baguio was built up in the mountains. And so and when you have that many people, you build upon each other, right? There's a lot of, there's a lot of building upwards as opposed to outwards. You can't just build outwards because you go down the side of a hill. So just to give you an idea, a lot of the roads are very congested. A lot of the work in Manila is very congested. As we look at Manila and think about the city proper is about 15 million people, because we're going to discuss Manila a little bit as well. The Manila metro area is almost 50 million people. Almost half of the population of the country, or at least 40% of it, is located in Manila. And we'll talk about the churches that are there as well. A lot of you asked me immediately when we got back of the religion over there, and was it heavily Islamic? It is not. It is 80% Catholic. 78.8 was what Wikipedia told me. I'm going to go with 80. Islam is about 6%, and it's all found pretty much in the southern islands. And the Church of Christ is 0.4 of 1% of the population, about 600,000 people out of 119 million. There's a lot of work to be done. Churches there, June told me there are about 600 churches in the Philippines. Most of them are house churches. There are many small congregations with very little leadership and probably not elders. And most of the Metro Manila churches do not have a located preacher. In 50 million people, there's not very many churches that have a located preacher. There's a lot of work to be done, my friends. Here's some pictures of Baguio City, just from some high points. These are sides of mountains you can see here of just completely fills the side of the mountain. If you think about going to Aspen or Winter Park or someplace like that up in the Rockies, imagine being in Baguio and you got 500,000 people sitting in a very small area. So here's another picture of Baguio City. And so when you are that congested, there's not a lot of individual cars in transportation. There's a lot of public transportation, a lot of taxis. I actually fell in love with one of their forms of transportation. They were called jeepneys. If you look at the front of these, they actually look like a World War II Jeep, the front end of one, but yet they're much longer. They hold about 14 to 15 people. They have certain routes that they take around the city, even outside of the city. Matter of fact, some of the students will take these around the city, or they will even take them when they go out on their preaching jobs on the weekend. They can be painted about any color you can imagine, red, blue, green, yellow. They actually have all kinds of statements on them. Incidentally, many like God is love, God loves you on the back of them when you see them. I just fell in love with them. And so Anna decided that I needed my own jeepney. So I now have my own jeepney. And it sits on my desk at work. It actually says Manila on it. It's yellow. It has 4 horses on the hood, means it's 4 horsepower. So if you're jealous, you can come touch my jeepney later. But I did. I was enamored with him. I thought it was hilarious. But it also tells you the influence the United States has had there since World War II. When you think that General MacArthur, that was his home base in Manila all through the war and afterwards, quite frankly, some in Japan. So that gets us to the school. June and Anna Fuentes are over there working together. June and Anna are graduates of Philippines Bible College in Baguio back when they were younger. June is retired U.S. Navy. He was a supply officer forward deployed in Japan. So that meant that he could be called any moment to go out. And I know he served on several ships, but he also served on the USS Kitty Hawk, which is one of the carriers for the United States. And so when you're the supply officer of that ship, you are responsible for everything that goes on and off of that ship. And so it gives you a sense of June's sense of control of the school and what goes on there. And so he is very budget-minded. He's very conscientious about those things. And so you will see that as we talk through it. June started Heritage in 2018. Actually started in 17 working on it, but 2018 was when they first started. It had actually been a plan of his for some time after he retired. June and Anna, if you remember, visited here last year in June, June spoke here. And actually that was just, Anna had not been over there full time with him quite yet. We actually started supporting them shortly after that in August. We started supporting them monthly. We continued to do that. But also, if you remember, they had a construction project that they needed to finish, about $40,000, and we added to that. You're going to see some pictures of the direct result of that. And we continue to support them today. And we are very proud of being a part of that work. They have 2 children, Nathan and Amanda. Nathan is a graduate of Texas Tech. Both of them still live in Lubbock, by the way, where June and Anna's home is. And Amanda, who is still in college, will graduate next month. June and Anna will actually come back for that graduation, and then June will fly right back because school is still in session. When June started this, he was over there by himself. Anna was still back here. She was a school teacher with the kids in Lubbock. And June came home and said, he said, with all of these, we have young ladies that are here and we have young men, and it's difficult for me to work with the young ladies in some things, like when they get sick or things such as that. He felt very out of place. The only thing he could typically do is maybe take them to an emergency room. And he asked Anna if she would be willing to come over and to stay with him and work with him and be basically running the ladies' side of it. They spoke with the kids, and they said immediately, the kids both said, Mom, Dad, we'll be fine. You guys go. Mom, you need to be with Dad. And so now Anna is over there full time, just under a couple of years. But both the kids agreed quickly. And so I think it speaks obviously to their family as a whole and the focus that they have. The picture that you see in front of you is at the beginning, at the front of Heritage Bible College. And if you'll notice, it's a very narrow entrance. And that is the front of the street where the school is. If you look just to the right, that is actually a wall of another building that is not theirs. And if you look to the left, you'll see a fence that goes down the side. That's the other side of their property. And you say, well, that's pretty narrow, Tom. Well, it's a pie shape, and it spreads out as it gets back. And so all of the pictures that you've seen are actually behind this. But this is the entrance that they put together. You can also see at the bottom right of that, there's a couple of pipes. That's actually their water supply. When they first started here, they didn't even have water supply to the building. They had to have water trucked into the building, into supply tanks. Now they actually have 2 water supplies, and so they can fill their tanks at odd times. So they keep water on both sides. They have tanks for both, one for the girls' side and one for the boys' side of the dorms. Something that you wouldn't think about, but something that was that kind of hit me when June talked about it. They have some instructors there, Brother Santiago and Sister Sarah Samion. 2 wonderful people. I think I'd sat down and talked with them about 30 minutes, and I felt like I'd known them my whole life. It's amazing what fellow Christians can enjoy together when they're there. Brother Santiago is 81. He is from the island of Negros, and every year he and his wife go back to their home island for about a month or 2, and they preach and strengthen congregations in the area. That island has about 100 congregations. Santiago basically teaches any class he's asked to teach. He doesn't care. Right now he's teaching 2 Corinthians. Sarah teaches English 1, 2, and 3. Tagalog is the native language. It is the, accepted nation language, but yet there are multiple dialects within that language. Matter of fact, Sister Anna told us that when June would speak his dialect from his home island, she couldn't understand him. That's how different the dialects are. So they definitely are going towards English. They teach in English. They speak in English to make sure that they're all using the same language. We will talk about these people later. Brother Santiago told me that he's baptized about 6,000 people, just for that to fit. And he was an instructor for June and Anna when they were in Philippine Bible College. He told me, he said, now the student has become the boss, because June is now his boss. A couple of the other teachers, I didn't get to meet them, Brother Asubio and Elizabeth Tanikala. And Brother Asubio, both Brother Santiago and Brother Asubio were on the original steering committee that are still there basically helping June. They were on that original committee that started in 2017. They continue to work with them. They are there almost nonstop working with the kids. And if you notice back in the left corner, that's Brother Santiago. And you might go, what is that thing on his head? He loves those hats. He has multiples of those hats in different colors, different designs. It's not because his head is cold, because Baguio is almost 75 degrees year-round, folks. He just loves those hats. And so if you see a picture, look for the hat, you'll find him, okay? He's quite a character. Here's some of the pictures that you haven't seen. This is the dining hall that's on the next to bottom floor, I believe. I'm trying to remember, or it may be the bottom floor. Matter of fact, there's some work that's been done here on this building actually since we left. When we were there, this was still a metal roof because of the floor above it, with lights coming from that, and it was very loud in there when you got 60 students in there with all the echoes. And he said, we really need to put this roof in. And so when I was there, I asked him, I said, June, what do you need the most? And Anna spoke up first and said, we need a new printer because our printer is about shot. And they were using just a little Hewlett-Packard, and it actually died about a week later. And June said, well, after construction. And I said, well, what does that mean? Because the first round of construction is all done, the construction that we knew about last year. He had about 4 or 5 projects. One of them was this ceiling. And it was about $1,000, if I remember correctly. Matter of fact, it looks very much like the lighting and ceilings that we've replaced here over the last couple of years. He said, I need to do that. He's going to change the entrance. Cost about $3,000. Long story short, and he needed some coverings for the outside walls because they're cinder block. And in the monsoon season, it rains so much that those walls will weep water, and it causes mold inside. And so they are putting a metal exterior on that to keep that from happening so they won't have to fight the mold. And believe me, June and Anna keep those kids busy making sure that they're taking care of those things as well. But he said, we need about $10,000 for these projects. And so I was fully ready to sit down and talk to the elders about what can we do to be part of this project. And I was sitting down one night talking to Cindy on our couch downstairs, and I got a text from June, and he said, Tom, he said, forget the $10,000. I'm like, what's going on? He said, we just had a family whose father died, and they want to honor him, and they are giving $10,000 to Sunset, and Sunset is asking us if we need it. It's amazing how things get answered. It's just amazing. And I can also tell you that we had already decided in our elders meeting a couple of weeks ago that we would take care of the printer. He's told me what that cost yesterday, and we've approved that, so they're going to get them a new printer as well, much better than the one that they had, so they've answered those questions. You can also see this bottom picture is a little sitting area. That was an area that was just grass and some plants, and they said, you know what, we can use this. It's outside facing. If you see that outside there where there are some plexiglass, but yet it opens to the stairway that comes down from the front. A little sitting area is outside the girls' dorm. It's a nice area for them, open air, and if you notice, there's a lot of clothes hanging there. They don't have washers and dryers. You have 60 students, no washers and dryers. They wash their clothes by hand. And then June did relent, and he bought them a little wringer. If you've been at like the YMCA, where they come out of the pool, and there's a little spinner, they have one of those. And so they can get their clothes wet, they can wash them, they can put them in that spinner, get most of the water out, and then they hang them to dry. They're wanting to put a roof over the boys' side of this as well, so they can have a place to dry their clothes as well. And they do this all on their own, regularly, day in, day out. This is the library. This is the level, it's right above the dining hall, and it's a really nice library. Cindy kept saying, I wish our library was that big, because it's a nice size, but yet they're serving 60 students, right? A lot of books already there, but they really want to get more. It's not cheap to get books over there. Sometimes they will get books at the school, and they will send them over, and they get about a 2x2 box, and it costs about $180 to send that over there, and about 2 months, because it goes on a boat. And so it takes a while for it to get there. And so we also looked at visual aids. We'll talk about that in a minute as well, but some of those things that need to be taken care of for them. Those 2 pictures are part of the original construction, especially the dining hall that we supported. There's a direct effect. This is a view from the back of Heritage. I had to put this on here just because it was such a beautiful view. It was one afternoon where the fog started to roll in. It rolls in about 2. It's gone about 3:30. But as you can see, in the very back in the top, there's a little shiny spot. You may not be able to see it too well. It's actually where a river is leaving the country and going out into the South China Sea. They can actually see the South China Sea on a very clear day out behind the school, but it's a long ways away. It's probably 30 miles, I think, roughly. So we talk about the points of emphasis. These 3 tenets run through everything that the school does. Teaching those who will teach others. So they're trying to build preachers. They're trying to build those that will go out and teach a Bible class. They want to go start churches. They're going to plant churches. Matter of fact, the first-year student's job is to come up with a place and a plan of how they would start a new church, and they go and do that. They also want to develop churches, help those that are already established, help them to get stronger so that they can stand on their own, and help leaders within those. There is, as I said earlier, there's a great lack of leadership within the church over there, of those that will stand up and continue to make things happen. So every effort that you're going to see is focused on these points of emphasis. These applied ministries that June calls them are what the students are required to do. They are required to do these things. So each one of these focuses on the school and the students, their core focus. Some are weekly work. Some of them are focused on certain times of the year or work that each class will undertake each year. Many of them will take Wednesday afternoon and Saturday afternoon and even Sunday afternoon, and they have predetermined places where they will meet people, and they will hold Bible studies or Bible classes with them out in the city, out around the city. In fact, there's one lady who her husband is not a member of the church, but he will allow them to have the kids come in and have the kids come in for a Bible class. She's the one who actually owned this building in the original. Matter of fact, this past week, June posted a picture of the first-year students on the internet. They were out in about 4 different cities searching for their city that they're going to need to plant the church. They also have the urban ministry. That's done here again in Metro Manila. They do that during the summer break, some internships where they go and try to strengthen those churches. And then the weekend preaching. The weekend preaching is a big deal. They sort of support about 12 different congregations by having young men that leave. Most of them are year 2 students. Most of them will leave on either a Thursday evening or sometime on Friday, and they will go to that destination. That church will then basically pays for their transportation down the mountain and back up, if you want to just look at it that way, because most of them are in the lowlands. And so they will do that. Luckily for me, June decided that the Saturday we were there, that he would take all the students around. So we jumped in the church van, or the school van, I guess I should say, and we proceeded to drive about 500 kilometers, so it's about 300 miles in a big loop, down the mountain, down through the lowlands, back down in between us and Manila, and then back up the mountain. And so I got to see firsthand some of these places where they're working, some of the work that they've done, but also get to know these young men a little bit better. This is actually where we stopped at a fast food restaurant called Jollibee. And right across the street is always going to be a McDonald's, so you don't have to worry, but they serve different food, like fried chicken at McDonald's. But Jollibee had, if you'll notice, most of these young men are eating fried chicken and rice, and this is about 8 o'clock in the morning. But that was their meal. That's what they all decided to order. You could have gotten like a spaghetti with a sweet sauce on it, which I can't imagine, because I can't imagine sweet spaghetti, but it's just a different appetite there. Here we are, this picture at the bottom is us at our first stop. The young man in the orange on the far left is going to be staying at that location for the weekend. Here is that church, Luna Church. The young man in the black in the middle, his name is Jome Epilogo. He is a graduate from Heritage, and this is the church that he planted. Basically, he started this church there, and it was known as the Church Under the Trees, because that's where they started meeting, was under a grove of trees that are just outside of the pictures that you see here. And so these young men will go down, typically 2, but here in this one, actually Carl on the left in the orange shirt, he's the one who's staying there. Because Jome is there, they only needed 1 there for this Saturday and Sunday. And so what will happen is that once they leave, if they leave on Thursday, they probably have Bible study set up for Friday and Saturday, and then they do the preaching, and if there's 2 of them, they either do the song leading and or Bible class as well. And so this is what goes on. So like I said, they were at first the church that meets under the trees. You'll see they're standing in front of a building. This is a house that was being built by a Canadian couple for retirement. And they knew Jome very well, and they actually called him and said, hey, we're delaying our retirement, so you can use that building as your church building. So they actually at least have a roof. It's completely built out of concrete, which is kind of normal over there. And so you have walls and ceilings that are all concrete, and that's about it. Okay, but that's where they meet. They have a roof over their head. And here's a picture of them meeting there on the left. That is the worship time where Carl is speaking. And I just love this picture on the right because they're still meeting under the trees for Bible class. They have a tarp out there, and this is right out in front of the building. They can meet out there, and quite frankly, they probably have the better end of the deal because down in the lowlands, it's more like 90 to 95. And so you'll be anywhere you can hopefully get a breeze. And that big concrete building doesn't get a great breeze through it because I was standing in there. So they've got the better end of the deal out there under the tree. And you can see Brother Jome, he's the one in the pink shirt, so he's teaching that Bible class. The house backs up basically to the beach to the South China Sea. This is about a mile down the beach where we were. You'll notice that most of those rocks are smooth. The beach is not sand, it's all rocks, and these rocks continue to get washed up, and by the surf, they're kind of beat. And I've got a couple of them at the house. I didn't want to bring them today. I already had my jeepney to show you, so I didn't figure you needed to see rocks. But we talked about how, these rocks continue to get beaten, just like we do during the day. We get our trials, but guess what it does? It takes off all of our rough edges. And so all of those rocks are smooth. You could walk on that bare feet. Even me with my little soft, feet, I could walk out there and not be worried about my feet hurting. But just a wonderful place. Matter of fact, where they're standing, it takes a steep decline into the sea because it continues to erode. It's about a 15-foot drop there. That if you go down, it'd be real quick, right? Here's another thing to use the beach for. That night, I'm not sure if it was that night or the week next, is they were meeting on the beach because they were going to baptize this young man. And I couldn't help but think, Philip and the eunuch, where he said, "See, here's water." Well, they've got a beach and an ocean right behind them, and they can baptize people. Believe me, that is a good-sized baptistry. They can guarantee to get them completely dunked when they're there. Also, I told you earlier that they will get the opportunity on Sundays not to just preach what would be a normal time like here. They'll preach somewhere else in the afternoon before they head back, and this is them doing that at another place in the city, another group of people. Basically, it looks like a lean-to next to the building. As you can see on the left, Carl is speaking again, and actually one of the young men from the work with Joan, he's there leading singing. So it just tells you the dedication that they have, spending all of their time there. I asked June a couple of times, where do they get time to do their studies? He goes, "Oh, they get them done." He didn't tell me when. He just said they get them done. Another applied ministry is community outreach. And this is some pictures of as a matter of fact, one of those is dated the 6th of March, which is actually when we were there. They were out in the community, and they were having some of those predetermined meetings. One of those on the left, I believe, is college students, and the one on the right is like some high school students. You can tell because they have on uniforms, and you can tell the schools. There's actually 2 colleges in Baguio, so there is a great deal of students that are kind of the same age as the students at the college. And so they can actually really relate with them and go and do that. Those are on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Another applied ministry, this is either a Saturday or a Sunday meeting where they're going and meeting young children at a predetermined place. On the picture on the right, you can see the green fence in the background. That's an elementary school. So they're meeting out in front of the elementary school, and they're there with those kids. And typically, June said they spend about 2 hours. And if they don't have visual aids, they make their own. Luckily, we sent some over there with Cindy and I, and I'll show you those in a minute. But they continue to do that. That is part of what they do. These young ladies are meeting them, like I said, near a church, near a school. One ministry that's not mentioned is the Martha ministry. And you have to think about Martha, Martha in the Bible. This is a group at the school. Like I said, they cook all the meals, okay? They cook their own meals. They prepare their own meals. Matter of fact, June gives them a budget, and they stay within that budget. Their job is to plan the meal, go out and get the food, bring it back, cook it, serve it. You don't go through a line and serve it. I got served the whole time I was there. I was like, this is different. There's a young man on the left picture. He's back in the middle with kind of a black and white shirt on. I call him Mr. Martha. They call him McCoy. He actually has a culinary degree, and so he's been over there. He's the one that runs that group, and they volunteer to do that, and they do it well. Matter of fact, they also supply a meal every Sunday after worship for Sunday afternoon. They got up that day, at least, at 4 a.m. to make sure that the meal was ready after services. So you can imagine after worship and after the meal was served, those kids disappeared for a while. I think they headed back and took them a nap. But that's the work that they do. And like I said, they started calling the Martha Ministry, and I just love that. I love the group that's there. He's a second-year student, so he's gonna graduate, and he's already training his replacement that will be taking over those duties next. I just love those kids. Matter of fact, they found out that Cindy had a dietary restriction, and they made sure that every meal that we had, that she could have something to eat that was good for her and not bad for her. So they did a wonderful job. They do a wonderful job serving that group there, and a joy to be around them and all of the students, quite frankly. Some of the other works that they are part of is the church involvement. They teach Bible class. There's a kids class, youth class. There's a college class. Matter of fact, I was in a class that one of the past students was teaching. It wasn't young ones. It was young once, which means I was in the old people's class. But that's okay. And he did a fantastic job. I think he might have graduated in the last year or two. But they all take part in that. Matter of fact, the whole worship service was run by the students. The song leaders, the prayers, those who are doing the table, those who are speaking normally. Now, I spoke that Sunday, but normally one of them is speaking as well. They continue to get prepped and ready and able to do that work when they go out on their own. They also have these special ministries. There's an AYA, and here again, a lot of these I think they come up with, or June came up with. It stands for Adolescents and Young Adults. Once a month, the team goes to different provinces to train young adults to be leaders in the church. They know that there's a lack of leadership, so they're trying to train them to help them do that. That's once a month. They also have the Salt Light Voices. This is not a choir. It's not a performing group, except that they do perform to the point that they learn new songs, and then they present them to everybody else so that they can take those songs out to others. We got the chance to hear them sing, and believe me, to hear that whole group sing, not just the Salt Light Voices, but all of them, was wonderful. It would make you sit up on the edge of your chair and see how hard you could sing, because I'd love to have brought some of them back, a couple of tenors and a couple of altos. It would have helped us all out a lot, because they had a lot of those. There is Modelo camps. There are twice-a-year camps for youth and young adult. In fact, one of those is going on right now as we speak. I got a text from Sister Anna this morning. She said they finished today. They started Friday. They're running through Tuesday, and they have 135 people attending. It packed this place that you've seen. They also have Hayuma. There's 3 separate annual retreats, one for alumni, which I think is a great deal because, when you send people out, sometimes they need rejuvenated themselves. And so June has that where they can come back and be with even some of their classmates or fellow graduates, kind of rebond, but also learn from each other. And then some for men and another one for ladies. They also have the Priscilla and Apollos workshop. It's a combined kind of a music camp, preaching camp, and a girls camp. Here again, all of this focused on how do we train those that are going to teach? How do we go out and spread the word? How do we build more leaders? Those are all of the focuses of the school, and June takes everything that they do, and it's focused on those works. So we have the Heritage Church of Christ meets in this very building. They opened it up. Matter of fact, in the mornings, June and Anna will drive into town with the van, and they have predetermined locations. They will pick up a van full of people to bring them back out so they can worship with them. And the morning that we were there was about 80 of us there. And you say, well, if there's 60 students, no surprise. No, more than half of the students weren't there because it was end of term. Some of them had gone home for the week that they had off. Others, as you saw in the previous slide, we had taken them down to the lowlands and they weren't with us. So there's about another 8 or 10 that were down in the lowlands. So the building was packed. If we'd have had any more, we'd have had to open up the side and go out into the expanded area. But a wonderful worship service with all of them. I spoke on opportunity. I told them that, opportunity plus ability equals responsibility. And I said, and you're here getting the ability. You're here gaining that knowledge, that ability to go out and teach others. And I asked them how that would work, and they loved that. Oh, excuse me. That was on another one. When I spoke to them today, it was on the parable of the talents. And I spoke to them about using their talents and how they were there. And believe me, they use their talents regularly. After dinner is served, they have a ladies' class. It's called the Rose of Sharon group. And this is quite an eclectic group of women. They asked Cindy to sit in, and she informed me in this class. I didn't get to sit in. The 2 ladies on the front, one on the right, one on the left, Sister Felicidad is on the right. She is actually retired military, but she's one that we picked up in town. And the lady on the left is Sister Leah. I can say this because she told Cindy, she didn't mind, she's 75 years old. And she said, you know what? She goes, I'm not real mobile, but I can prepare a Bible class and I can teach a Bible class, and so I'm doing what I can do. Lesson to all of us. Lesson to all of us. Both of them are graduates of the school. They've gone through the 2-year program, okay? The lady in the back in the middle with the red bag is Brother June's sister. She is a psychologist. She has helped out immensely in the fact that some of these young ladies have come there with some family issues from back home. She has helped them through that, so she is a great asset to the school. And then the lady on the top right in the very back sticking her head up, that's Sister Josie. She's the one who actually owned this property, and she is just thrilled that it is being used for what it is now. So they were able to buy this from her and now take over that place and turn it from a very dilapidated, bad place to be to a bright spot in the area. And Cindy, you can ask her, I won't tell you. They're not afraid of telling you their opinion on what the Bible says and what you should and shouldn't be doing. I'm guaranteeing you that. Cindy had the chance to speak. They have devotionals every evening. And we, as I said, we arrived on Wednesday. On the trip up to the school, Anna asked Cindy if she'd be willing to speak. Now, those of you who know Cindy would know that that wasn't her most comfortable moment. But she was asked to speak, and so she did. And they, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they split the devotionals. So the young ladies go to the library. The young men are in the common hall. And what they do, what this does is it gives the ladies a chance to learn what they need to do as well, because they speak, they preach, they pray, they lead that devotional. So it's another chance to get them into that possibility. They asked Cindy to speak that night. She spoke to them about teaching young children. Well, guess what most of these young ladies are doing on a regular basis, whether it's there or whether it's out in their ministry, or if that's going to be something that they do once they get back to their home congregation. They love that, and we also then brought them those visual aids that we talked about. Here's a picture of those visual aids, and you can see how much they love them. A big hats off to Wendy Lamb. She went through her supplies and gave us some of the wonderful ones that are there that she had duplicates of. And if you can't see it on their face, you're missing it, because they are overjoyed to have those, because if they can't have those, they've got to make them on their own. And then we went through a big stack of extra stuff that was in Cindy's classroom upstairs, and we pulled those things out that we thought they could use as visual aids. We stuffed those in our suitcases. Actually, one of ours was overloaded, and we had to pull it out of one and stick it in the other so we weren't overloaded. So our suitcases were quite heavy when we get there, but they love these things, and we're going to try to find another way to send more of those over there. So if you have extra materials in your classroom, please get them to Cindy. We'll go through them, and we'll use them, put them to use over there. As I said, I spoke at the end of term banquet as well. I already told you what I spoke about. I spoke about opportunity. If you can read the screen, which you probably can't, that was by me, it says greetings from the church that meets at Emporia Avenue in Wichita, Kansas. And I introduced them to you. I've introduced all of them to you, and I thought it would be a good time to introduce you to them. And so you remember we came by and took a lot of pictures of Bible classes, and we had the big picture that we took up here the Sunday before we left. I used those to introduce them to the congregation. They were very thankful for that. I asked them if they knew where Wichita was. No, they didn't, right? So I had a map up there that showed them where Wichita was in the state of Kansas, and then I said, and Kansas is right in the middle of the United States. And I figured that would give them a home base that would get them pretty close. So they at least know where we are. They have seen some pictures of who we are. And so a wonderful opportunity to get to work with them. Here is a picture of that same evening of those Salt Light Voices. They're singing a new song that they had just learned for everybody to hear. And I'll guarantee you, most of them all now know that song. That was only about a month ago. But I'll guarantee you, a number of congregations probably know that song now. You'll also notice that in the foreground there's that hat again. Right? There's the instructors. They were there that evening as well. Brother Santiago, Sister Sarah. Like I said, they're a great group of people that we got to know and enjoyed being with them. He's diabetic, and he loves Coke. Loves it. Matter of fact, he says, I used to preach against Coke, but now Coke is life. Sorry, Ed. Not Pepsi. Pepsi's number 2. His words, not mine. Just saying. So the night that we had the banquet, Cindy and I were talking to June, and we said, hey, this is obviously a special night. How about a special treat for the kids? What could we do? He goes, well, I guess we could spoil them one night. And he said, they probably like ice cream. So we bought like 10 gallons of ice cream. I think more than that, but about 10 gallons of ice cream, and we took it back, and they had that. And when we were buying that, we said, well, we need to get a Coke for Brother Samuel. And so we brought him a Coke. But we asked Sister Sarah first if it was okay, because she keeps control of his diet to make sure. He's been known to hide his Coke, okay? He's been known to pour it into jugs so they wouldn't know he was drinking Coke. Remember, Coke is life, okay? Well, here's a picture of when we gave them his Coke. He is just overjoyed that he's got a Coke. And here again, he's got his hat on, and then we kind of took back and said, okay, we'll take a normal picture too. But I love this family to death. I like I say, I'm texting with them all the time anymore, especially Sister Sarah. She seems to be the one that texts, so that's great. And just recently, we'll go to one more slide. Their son, Shim, is also a member there. And his name is Shimmer, because all of their vowels are I can't think of our grammatical term. They're not the strong A's, they're the soft ones, all of those. And so it's Shimmer. They call him Brother Shem. He's also on the steering committee for the school, by the way, just so you know that. They invited us out to dinner on Sunday night. So that was the last meal that we had in Baguio. We went out and had a meal with them and just loved them to death. This is the only time I've ever seen Brother Santiago without his hat. Only time, the whole time I was there. But that's Brother Shem on the right, and he also goes down to Negros to work in the mission work with his parents. Matter of fact, they're down there right now, and we're going to talk about that. And then behind Cindy and I is Enzo. He's our new best friend. It's Shem's son, and he is a card. A joy to be around. Just love this family to death already. Like I say, I can't even tell you I've spoken with them 8 hours, but love being with them, love talking to them, and being the support that they are for the school and wanting the best for the school. As I said, Brother Santiago and his wife and Shem are down in Negros right now. Matter of fact, I think Shem may have just flown back yesterday or the day before. But she sent me a text, and I don't expect for you to read this, but I'm going to summarize it for you. This is what they've done for March 17th to March 31st, 14 days, right? This is an 81-year-old man that's diabetic and his wife who is somewhere in the same age range. I don't know exactly what her age is, but I'm going to summarize it. Brother Shem and Brother Santiago, they've spoken to over 17 different congregations. They've taught, Brother Santiago taught every day his morning class for HBC via the internet. They took an individual to the hospital and have visited him 3 times. Sarah spoke to a ladies group of over 75. Both brothers Samion spoke to an annual youth camp of over 250, of which they baptized 24. And they're, like I said, they're not headed back till the end of April. 81 years old, all of that work. All I can tell you is no excuses. If you're using age and excuse, I'm going to show you a picture of Brother Samion. That's all I can tell you. That's why I put that up there for effect, is that we need to think about that. I was talking about this with Jed, I think maybe the first or second Wednesday night I got back. We were sitting down here, and he looked at me and he goes, "Where's our zeal?" He's right. Where is our zeal? What are we doing? Look at what they're doing. Those students are busy 24/7. Brother Samion and his wife are busy all the time, seeing who they can preach, who they can teach, how they, that trip didn't happen by accident. They had to plan that trip to be at 17 different congregations in 14 days. They had to plan that. They had to put that together. They had to fly there. They had to execute it at 81 years of age. Where's your zeal? Isaiah chapter 63 verse 15 says, "Look down from heaven and behold, from the habitation of thy holiness and of thy glory, where is thy zeal and thy strength?" I know this is a prayer from the Israelites to God. They're asking God, where are you? Why have you left us? We need you here. Where is your bowels of mercy for us? Why are you restrained? Why are you holding back? I believe that this can rightly be God asking us the same very question. Where is your zeal? Where is your strength? Where is your focus? And I'm not saying that just to you. I'm saying that to me too. As an elder of this congregation, where is our strength? What are we doing? How are we focusing? Because they've done it. They're working it every day. We need to look at that example and think about what we can do. What's our next approach? Where are we headed? When I did the budget back in January, my last slide, I'm going to use it again. Are we doing all that we can do? I think every one of us knows how we answer that question right now. That includes me. That includes you. And so I want you to think about that. Think about the work that I am overjoyed that we are a part of this work. And I want to do every part of that work I can do. We're looking at possibly being the elders that look at that work on a regular basis. We haven't made that decision yet, but we're there. We understand what it is. The other elders, their decision to send me over there was huge. Matter of fact, they made another smart decision. They said, you need to take Cindy with you because she did some things that I couldn't do. She could sit in the ladies' class. She could sit in the girls' class, and she could understand that side of the work. Just like Anna is there for June, Cindy was there with me. And so the other elders making that decision was a huge decision. And I think it was Leroy and Loy that pushed that one to happen. But I want to ask you, where's our zeal? I know this isn't a lesson that convinces somebody necessarily to become a New Testament Christian, but There may be some here that know that they need to be baptized, that they need to put on their Lord in baptism. There may be others that you say, I'm not doing all that I can and I need to change. Maybe I've done something of a public nature that I need to make right with God. Whatever your need might be, we'd ask you to come now as we stand and sing the song of invitation.